Welcome, everybody, to the Green Team of the Legendarium podcast. With me today, I have one of the brides of Dracula, Befuddled Panda.
Hi.
And also, I have one of the Frankenstein's monster or Dr. Frankenstein. I don't know which one it is, but Jingalls.
Hola.
And lastly, who else was in this movie? I have Dracula himself with a beautiful ponytail, Mr. Anderson.
Oh, hello.
And I am the Discord's Kate Beckinsale, Yettibeats, your host.
Oh my god.
And we are getting down and dirty for Spooktober with 2004's classic Van Helsing, directed by Stephen Sommers. You may know him from the fame from The Mummy, The Mummy 2, and Odd Thomas, which I have not seen, but I think is a cult favorite for hipsters. But we're not doing that today. We're doing Van Helsing. And I don't know. Let's just get it started. What did we think of Van Helsing? And we'll do spoiler-free section first, just so we don't want to spoil anything. Huh?
Did you want the premise?
Oh yeah, sponsored by ChatGPT. Panda, give us the premise of this movie.
Not sponsored, but we were too lazy to write our own, so we asked ChatGPT to summarize for us in 50 words. So this is what it gave us. We'll see how accurate it is. Says Van Helsing, 2004, follows monster hunter Gabriel Van Helsing, who travels to Eastern Europe to defeat Dracula. Teaming up with Anna Valerius, they face various creatures while uncovering dark secrets. As they battle Dracula and confront their inner demons, an epic showdown ensues, determining the fate of humanity. I think that was pretty good.
That's not bad. Yeah.
But we couldn't come up with that ourselves. We had to AI generate that.
I'd never be able to formulate that.
Oh, it's more of I don't have the brain power to put it together right now.
More concise than anything I could have come up with.
That was accurate enough, but let's just get into it. Spoiler free first. I want to go to Jingles first because he said he has a very nostalgic relationship to this movie and possibly the trailer. So what'd you think of Van Helsing, and remember when you watched it for the first time?
Yeah. So first off, Yeti, I want to see you rock that corset at some point. You need to get on that. But yeah, okay. So picture this. It's 2004. The Super Bowl's on. It's about to be halftime. Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake are about to come on.
Oh no.
And you get, while little Jingles hasn't even gotten into his beard yet, is grabbing some food, and this trailer comes on, and it shows a werewolf, it shows Frankenstein's monster, it shows Dracula, and it shows a badass guy with a huge crossbow who's hated by society. I was all in. I was done. Okay, I'm seeing this movie. I have no idea. Oh, and you also get from the guy who directed The Mummy. Okay, perfect. Go to Barnes & Noble. Go to Barnes & Noble a couple days later. There's a novelization for this movie coming out. I picked that bad boy up. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I was so excited. I was so in for this movie. This was back when, like, there was nothing really going on as far as, like, comic book stuff went. And this was, like, right in that bracket a little bit. I loved it. And then I saw the movie, and I still loved it. But I quickly acknowledged that this was not good. I was going to love it forever. But never would I accept that this was the best we could have gotten out of a crossover of all these monsters. So,
Aww.
yeah.
Now I gotta go look for that novel.
Was that trailer the apex of your Super Bowl experience, or was the nipple surpassing?
No,
No.
I think the trailer was probably the apex.
Yeah,
I still remember the trailer even existing. That tells you.
That's funny. Panda, I assume you had a similar experience to that?
No. So my experience with this movie was at a sleepover.
Oh,
I think I was in high school, and it's like Hugh Jackman was pretty hot back then. All us
back then.
girls. Okay,
Still
yes.
got it.
He's more Silver Fox now,
Mm.
yes. Um, and all us girls, like, we wanted to watch something Halloweeny because it was a sleepover for Halloween. And I don't even know who like suggested it, but they threw it on and I was just mesmerized. It wasn't like, because you guys know I'm a scaredy cat, so, um, luckily, it wasn't, like, that scary for me, and so I could watch the whole thing with my eyes open, and got to take it all in, all the gloriousness of this wonderful film.
Oh man, we've got some super fans here. All right, Mr. Anderson, did you also bask in the 2 hours and 15 minutes of this movie?
This was a movie that was in the background of my life since 2004, I guess. Like, I've heard about it. I didn't know. I figured it was about Van Helsing killing monsters. Which I guess spoiler for later, but it is. And, and yeah, and then Pan was like, "Hey, we're gonna do a podcast episode. Do you want to watch it?" And I said, "Sure." And then I watched it. So I have no teenage awakening to anyone in this film from 2004. No.
A riveting 2 thumbs up from Mr. Anderson. Well, you survived watching it. I mean, that's all we can ask for.
I mean, it's a fun, dumb action movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're looking for anything more than that, you're gonna be very disappointed. But
You have
if
brain
you just
damage.
want to see, the crossbow that shoots 80 bolts a minute and doesn't run out of ammo when it's plot convenient, then it's fun.
Amazing. We all locked into that crossbow, just chugging out those arrows.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was similar, I think, in age to all you guys, where I remember seeing this in theaters. It was like I was in like high school, beginning high school maybe, and like this was prime time for just going to the movies, going to the mall that had a movie theater in it, and just watching junk. Like there was
Yeah.
just 2004, there was junk in the theaters, and I inhaled it. Um, I remember coming out extremely pleased with my experience. I thought that, like you said, that I remember that scene with the crossbow. I'm like, I need a crossbow. I was like, that's for my life.
This is
Um,
necessary in my life. Yeah.
Yep, I saw Kate Beckinsale, and I said I would like her in my life. That did not.
Yep.
Neither of those came to fruition. But I said that's just. I did, I couldn't walk after that. And then I like monster movies. Like I like the idea, and I did watching it this time too, where they have like a whole world. They cram all of like the Universal monsters into one movie, and you're kind of just in that world. And they didn't like save. Maybe they could save for a sequel, I guess. But like it's not spoilers really, but like Frankenstein's in this, Dr. Jekyll and Hyde. Like I like that there's different corners that Van Helsing goes to stop, or fix problems. Obviously Dracula. So that was cool to me, especially as a teenager. That's why I like fantasy, or why I initially like Sanderson. Just you have these little things that coincide from different worlds. That was cool to me. This time around, I thought it was super long. I I was like just fighting to not look at my phone and drift on
Oh
Reddit.
no.
I was entertained, but at a certain point, I'm like, this movie should be maybe 90 minutes, and it could
Yeah.
be
Could
just
easily cut
just
half
as
an
fun.
hour from this movie.
Yeah, and it would have been like an awesome. Like I would have bumped up 2 stars from this movie, but
Mm.
it just drags and drags, and but still fun. But still, like I don't regret it, and there's a lot to talk about, and yeah.
You mean you didn't enjoy the parts where they were just like looking around, to see if like there are dangers coming at them? No.
I just,
The heavy breathing,
there's just
the anticipation, the suspense.
the dramatic moments. This is there shouldn't be dramatic moments in this. They should know what kind of movie you're in. I think that's always like so vital to like movies you're
Uh,
making. And sometimes it just gets into this I don't know. The brother There's a relationship with a brother and sister that they're trying to make sad. I'm like, what are we doing here? Get back to the yeah.
Family is important to this, okay?
Yeah, I don't
They
know.
get that really nice cloud scene at the end.
Yeah.
I in my notes I have the Teletubby scene in there.
Oh my god.
It's like with Teletubbies in the cloud.
No, I can't unsee that.
Yeah, yeah. All right, but it seems like we all had a good time watching it.
Yeah.
If anything.
I think I agree with you, Yeti. There was one point when I was rewatching this, and I was like, "Wow, we're already at the end. This seems like really fast." I thought there was at least one other scene that was missing, and I was, "Oh no, we are only halfway through. We got so much left." So because I was getting into spoilers here, but there was one thing where it happened, and I was like, I thought like Van Helsing was supposed to have a huge reveal at this point, and then it wasn't happening. So
Yeah. I guess, would you recommend this movie?
I was gonna ask that too.
man, I don't know.
And if you would, who would you recommend to?
If you just want an action movie to watch around Halloween time and you can see Dracula and all that, it's a fun thing to watch. If it's on one of your favorite free streaming services, give it a shot,
It's on Netflix right now in the US.
I think it's a fun group watch,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you could probably make a drinking game out of it.
probably.
Like it's like you're not gonna be scared of it. Like you said, Panda, it's not scary. So like if you're like not a horror fan, it's fine. But it's like an action it's definitely the same director as The Mummy. Like I feel like if you like The Mummy, you're gonna like this. And
Even the CGI style.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't hate the CGI. I mean, it's not good, but it's not like The Rock and The Mummy 2. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not
Yeah.
that bad.
No, there's definitely like I kind of question, like, if you really wanted the guy who did the Mummy to do the rest of your Universal monsters, why did you throw all of them at him at once? Like, there's history of that. Universal is not shy about just making whatever monstrosity they can out of all of their monsters, but I don't know. It's just like it almost seemed too much. Like we haven't even really mentioned that. Like
Yeah.
there's Frankenstein and the werewolf and all that, but there's also Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Really quickly,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it's just I don't know. For if you want the adventure tone, I think there's a way you can make it work a little better than throwing a bunch of monsters all the time.
That does make me curious about the show that was created more recently. So I don't know very much about the show other than it's called Van Helsing.
There's
I
a Van
didn't.
Helsing show.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh.
stay up to date with the inferior medium, only film. But yeah, I had no idea
Whoa.
I had no idea there was a Van Helsing show.
Yeah, I
the
think there's like
show is
3
a little more
seasons or something.
serious in its
Okay.
Yeah.
approach. I don't know if it's better. I haven't seen it, but
Yeah.
It's like BBC's Sherlock, but with Van Helsing, or
probably something like that.
Anyway.
all right. Let's dig deep into this movie. Let's get into it. All right. The people want it. We got to give it to them. So spoilers from here on out, in case you don't want to be spoiled for the 2004 masterpiece Van Helsing. Actually, Panda, why don't you start with us first? What was first thing that stood out to you in Van Helsing that you'd like to talk about?
So I definitely remembered parts of the movie from when I first watched it. But there was a lot that I didn't remember. It's more of a vibe. Like,
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed the vibe of the movie. And honestly, I gotta say, like, I was kind of impressed with some of the techniques that they used for the cinematography. Like using the shadow, um,
Mm.
to show the transition of Dracula going from like the vampire to his bat form, his like monster form. And like you don't actually see what his monster form is until the very end, that big fight scene. I thought that was a pretty like nice use of the shadow, and just like the costuming. I really
Oh
like
yeah.
the costuming. It really stood out to me. I mean, yes, of course, like Anna's whole get up and outfit. I wish I could look that good in that get up. Uh, but then I also really remember the brides of Dracula,
Mm.
and their outfits when they're in vampire form was also like really pretty. And their like maneuvering, just like the way that the flight of the vampires is shot was very engaging. It actually felt like you are, it could almost be like a ride, like you are in the flight with them and seeing it from their point of view. So that stood out to me.
Get the tracking of the arrow from the crossbow through the armor.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
That
that
was
stuff
pretty
was
cool.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I also really just speaking of the cinematography and setup, I really like the scene where Dracula is talking to the brides and they're upside down,
Mm.
and just the kind of detail that they took into that because they do have like the hair dropping down and all of that. It was good.
Even the like some set pieces were just really fun. Like I remember when you first meet Van Helsing, he's like he's fighting Dr. Jekyll, I think, or Hyde,
Yes.
and he's hiding. He gets trapped under that like
The
clock
bell.
yeah, the bell, and he uses those awesome like little buzzsaw things to cut a circle, and he lifts it up and he thinks he's going under, but he looks up and he's in the bell.
Yes.
It was just like those are fun action sequences that are cheesy. I mean, those things are ridiculous, whatever weapon he's using.
Yeah.
That whole sequence, I was like, Van Helsing is like a version of Batman. Like
Yeah.
all his tech and his maneuvers, his like broodiness, he's just a fantasy version of Batman.
Oh, that's a good call. I mean, the townspeople hate him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
for
all
some
think
reason they all
you're
know he exists.
ridiculous. Yeah, yeah. They're mad that he's trying to save them from vampires. Like, oh, they're just trying to take their fill. Why are you going to mess it up? Like, what? What's wrong with you people?
Yeah. I love that. It's like a very clearly made for the trailer. The cop turning around after Jekyll dies. Van Helsing,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
are you done?
He even has has that scene where he's like standing on the tower and then there's a giant moon.
Yeah,
Just imagine that as the like bat signal.
totally Batman-esque. Oh, you nailed that. Jingles, what are you thinking about this movie?
Uh, I just can't get around like the entire premise is that Dracula has been having too much sex. Needs to find a way to bring his kids to life. Like that's such a strange premise. But
The plot of this movie, I mean, it lost me pretty quick.
yeah.
I remember at the end, he says something like, I don't know if I went in and made tea at some point, but he's like, well, in my previous life, like you killed me, Van Helsing. I said, what the hell's going on here? He like he did it. It was like, is he super old? And I was just like, I don't know what's going on. But
Oh yeah, they don't really address that.
It was supposed to be for the sequel.
Was it Van Helsing Origins?
Yeah. Is there really much left to go after now that we know that he's the left hand of God? I don't know.
yeah, they created like a whole
Gabriel.
they created like this whole
Gabriel.
mythology. That's what I mean. Like this movie didn't need that. You don't need to have this crazy mythology about, who if he's some savior or whatever. It's like just have him like killing old monsters, where it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so much of the stuff of like him being a famous enough person for anyone to acknowledge him is
His
existing.
reputation precedes
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. I don't know. And meanwhile, there's a bunch of people who are actively fighting monsters in the real world, and they still don't like the guy that is apparently really effective at doing it, that he's become famous. Like, I don't know.
Did has anyone seen Mortal Kombat 2 here?
Right.
No.
So I got major vibes at the end when he turns into a werewolf to fight Dracula, and you have this
Mhm.
monster showdown, very similar to Liu Kang and the end of Mortal Kombat 2, where they turn into monsters and fight.
You just spoil Mortal Kombat 2 for me.
Well, I'm sorry. If you haven't
It's
seen that
probably
masterpiece
okay.
at this point, I mean,
Was that high on the list of watches soon?
Oh, so high. It was gonna be tonight.
but it's like I don't know that mid 2000s thing where they had to have. I mean, I guess they still do in Marvel movies, but they had to have like a CGI end to it, kind of. But
Yeah.
the CGI is not like ideal, so you just have like this giant Batman, not Batman, but bat creature fighting a giant werewolf creature. I don't know.
Yeah. In a lab space that I don't think has dimensions anymore. just, just expands as necessary.
All right, Mr. Anderson, what did you want to talk
So
about?
I don't know if this is just me, but this movie looked bad. Not
Let
in
it
like
out.
old CGI look bad's way. Like I think it's the compositing they did between the CGI and the real stuff. It looks like it was from the early 90s. And it was extremely distracting to me.
I do have to say though, you have a trained eye for that kind of thing to like notice the shading, the shadowing, and like, where the light hits and stuff. And so I think you're definitely it's more obvious to you. Whereas for me, I'm just like camp. It just looks camp. I guess part of it is the nostalgia. But yes, it's not like great. Um the composite's not great.
'Cause even if you look at other movies from like that year, a few years before that, if you look at The Mummy,
Right.
they look better. And I don't know what happened here, but
Budget.
I don't have your eye, but
oh,
is
this
it?
was a high budget movie
Oh,
for the
was
time
it?
anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. This was
Oh,
like a blockbuster. It was.
yeah, okay.
Did you feel like it just was overly dark? You know what I mean? Like it had that same like the Mummy you're saying, at least there's like out you could tell if they were actually on not in a set, but like actually in the
Right.
desert or actually on location. This just felt that same dark kind of
Mhm.
gloomy
Well, this had
weather.
that all gray and browns
Right.
that was very big in like the mid 2000s kind of
Yeah.
thing. And that doesn't help it. But I think it was also so much of it was shot in front of a green screen.
Mhm.
And so it looks so flat because you had an actor standing alone in a room with a 2D image painting behind him.
Right.
So the whole thing just looks so that's what it looks like. It looks like, Van Helsing standing in front of a poster through a lot of it.
The one scene for that always stands out for me is when Kate Beckinsale's character is uh, next to the werewolf's cage, and the werewolf breaks out of the cage and then swipes at her, but it clearly like just goes right past her because it's clearly she's just running away from a green screen.
Mhm.
Yeah, any scene that has, like, expansive nature, you're just like,
Yeah.
"Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not real."
I can't think of another like I'm trying to think of one scene that was like just lit up. You know what I mean? That didn't
Yeah.
like even outdoor scenes were usually always at night, kind of. And if it
Night
wasn't, it
or
Well,
felt
but
like
dusk
it was
that's
like
or
kind of the point,
overcast.
right? Because of the setting of Transylvania, like, that's why
Yeah,
vampires like being there because it's so cloudy and gloomy, like,
of
all
course.
throughout the year. So, that, like, the tone, it's, like, definitely cool tones. I think the only time that it's really warm tones is, in the friars, like, when, Carl is, like,
Mhm.
showing him all the inventions and contraptions,
I
and
did like
then
the
the
James Bond
ending.
cue
Yes,
version of him going through the
definitely
What?
got a James Bond feel.
Yes,
Yeah.
for
when
sure.
Carl
Yeah,
showing him through the gadgets.
yeah.
Poor Faramir.
Carl
I,
Carl was a great addition
I was just gonna
to the
say,
cast.
did you recognize who
Yes.
Carl was? What range this guy has?
This was
Faramir.
like probably this was probably his next movie after Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, goes from Faramir, this hunk, to this bumbling comedic relief. He was hilarious. He was
He was
great.
hilarious. I was laughing every time he was on screen.
He was great.
Don't worry, I'm a friar. Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to save this, but I'll get into it now. Um, hopefully we don't anger too many people, but I'm going to read you guys Hugh Jackman's movies that are not Wolverine. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right.
All right. First, Kate and Leopold, right
Okay.
after X-Men.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. Van
Yeah.
Helsing. Okay.
Yeah.
That's something. After that, The Fountain. Do we
Mm,
have a lot of
mhm.
Fountain fans here? No?
I mean,
No.
I'm not quite a fan, but I did watch it. It
Okay.
was
This
trippy.
one, The Prestige. All right.
Oh, that's a good
Okay.
one.
Next, Happy Feet.
I
Also a good
love
one.
Happy Feet.
Yeah.
All right, I guess. Deception. Does anyone even reckon?
Don't even know what that is.
Nope.
Australia. We big Australia.
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that.
Nicole
Okay.
Kidman. Hey, great.
Okay. Real Steel. The Sock and Bop and Robots.
Written by Richard Matheson.
Oh my god.
Did not watch that.
Les Miserables. All right.
Mm-hmm.
See, Prisoners. All right. Give him that one, I guess. Night at the Museum. Secret Stone.
Wait, seriously?
Chappie.
Oh,
Pan.
okay. Uh-huh.
Pan. Is that a
Yeah.
Peter Pan adaptation?
Yep. He played Captain Hook, I believe.
Oh yeah, he
Oh,
did.
jeez. I don't
like-
remember that.
He was like bald. Eddie the Eagle. Big that one.
That's-
Greatest Showman, obviously.
That was good.
And then The Front Runner, Bad Education. I mean, this is my point. I think he sucked. I think Hugh Jackman's a bad actor. I think he's coasted with the Wolverine movies, and
Uh-huh.
that Prestige is two good ones, really. Prestige is Nolan really the story in that one's better than anything he is, and Bale. And Prisoners, is Denis, and it's
Denis, yep.
you come away with Gyllenhaal from that movie. Hugh Jackman overacts in that one. He's punching the wall and stuff. I'm just saying, if this movie was called The Mummy 3, and you had Brendan Fraser back in it and Rachel Weisz, whatever you say, Weiss,
Wife.
and they were just transplanted. Now they're dealing with these vampires and stuff. I think it's so much better. I think Fraser's comedic tone works
Aw.
better. I think Hugh Jackman, he's so serious in this, and like, he's not. I just.
That's the point.
I think he stinks. I think he snoozes me. Carl's doing the best he can to get laughs out of this movie, and Hugh's just nothing. He's a nothing burger. He looks cool, I
No.
guess, but what? Brendan Fraser's not going to look cool with the crossbow. I'm just listen. When you read these movies, Australia. I mean, come on, this guy.
Come
he's
on,
supposed-
Happy Few is great.
All right, I guess so, but I just
Although that was voice acting as opposed to you
No
don't
shame.
see
no shame. I was going through it and I was watching this movie. I'm like, because this is like right after I think X2 maybe, and I'm thinking like he's like kind of shooting. He's going up there as a movie star, and this is what he picks. I think he clearly wanted to start a new franchise for himself. I think that's what they wanted, and I'm like, this. I was watching it. He doesn't have the juice. He doesn't have it. Sorry. So that's my hot take right there.
All right.
But did you guys liked Hugh in this then? I guess. I mean,
I'm gonna have to disagree on Hugh being bad. But, he's not a driver for me to see a movie. Now that you say that,
other than Wolverine.
other than Wolverine movies, yeah. No, you know what? I would say Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale are the reason I watched The Prestige, not Christopher Nolan.
Okay, that's fair.
Mm.
Because at the time, I don't really think I could even say I knew who Christopher Nolan was.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that was a star power driven movie.
I guess for that movie, it's more like, what do people take away from that? And I always thought the story and the twist and the writing of that movie is what was like endures. I mean, I probably went and saw it because of Hugh Jackman when I was a kid, but just
Sure.
looking back, it's not like I remember that movie because of Hugh Jackman. I just remember he was kind of not sucky as an actor, but his character was like, you suck. Christian Bale gets over on you.
His character does suck, but pretty intentionally, I think.
Yeah,
So,
right. That's what I
yeah.
mean. Yeah, written that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that they necessarily wanted. Like, I think they wanted Wolverine for this movie. They wanted that
Right.
kind of gruff, like, action hero. I don't think they were looking for a lot of depth from him here.
No.
I have a hot take about the Prestige.
Oh,
So, do you guys remember another movie called The Illusionist?
Yeah,
oh
the
boy.
far inferior
Absolutely.
movie.
Yeah, the lesser.
Okay, so here's the
Okay,
thing.
we're pivoting this podcast now.
She can't even say it. She's choking.
I saw The Illusionist before I saw The Prestige. So, to me, The Illusionist was like the first that did these kind of like twists with around the same kind of plot, similar plot kind of thing. Um, and part of it, and I recognize this is probably not a good thing, but like I was able to guess what happened like at the end of The Illusionist. And again, this was like another, sleepover kind of film that we watched.
Okay.
And I was so proud of myself being able to just say like, "Oh, I'm sure the next thing he's gonna do is blah 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 blah," and then it happens. Um, Even though I said it as a joke, and then they actually did it. Um, and then later I watched The Prestige, and I was like, "Oh, this is not as fun. This is so like boring."
Wow.
Unbelievable. I love the hot take.
So there you go.
You're like the people that saw The Core before Armageddon. You're like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the disaster movie for me.
I love Armageddon.
Oh, me too. All right. Well, yeah. So nobody thinks Brendan Fraser around the Mummy time would be better in this role.
I am more gotta be wondering why they didn't go that route because the Mummy was still pretty hot. I think, right? The second one. I don't know
Second one,
how
yeah.
well the second one actually had done at
Yeah, it
that
made
point.
money.
They did
Yeah.
well enough to make like 2 more. Plus the
Yeah.
spin-off one.
And they very clearly decided they weren't going to add the Mummy to Van Helsing for whatever reason.
Right.
It's very
Well,
much
it's
not there.
different temperature, it's like Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Frankenstein, they're like remote, isolated, like colder village type.
Sure.
Or like I guess London for Jekyll.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
switch it up. Even Benny was in this one, except he was well, who did he play in this one? He was
There's
like
Igor in this one.
Igor. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the Mummy. Yeah.
That was a fun henchman fight. Igor versus Carl. Run across the bridge with a huge pike.
that tases, I guess.
Did we want to talk about any of our favorite sequences in this movie that you thought was the most memorable to you? We already talked about the Teletubby sequence where Kate Beckinsale somehow was died and her face was up in the air. And the Teletubbies
Okay,
ended the show.
I really like
She'll
that
be in
they
purgatory.
I like that she died at the end. I
How
think
did
that
she
was a
die?
very She died because he was in his werewolf form and he was
Yep.
like about to turn for good, and then she got the antidote into him, but he crushed her.
Oh. Okay. So it was like a bear hug. That's what did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. With a lot of momentum.
That's what a fun fact about that scene that I was reading on IMDb. So I don't know if this is true, but I guess when he transforms back from the werewolf to a man in that scene and he's holding her, he's supposed to be bare butt. But they thought that was too graphic, so they put a loincloth around him. So that's the only part that doesn't transform.
That's
It's
hilarious.
like the Hulk.
The important things
have-
we're paying attention to.
I do have a gripe. Okay.
Please.
So that end sequence, right? The clock strikes midnight and it's supposed to be they have one last minute to save him with the antidote before he permanently becomes a werewolf. That was like the longest minute ever. You know? And at some point they just like don't even pretend anymore that they're trying to keep it within a minute because like they don't even have the bell ringing in the background anymore.
Did anyone care if he was just a wolf for the rest of the time? I wouldn't care. Like, oh well, he's just a cool
Seems
wolf.
like a good power to have. I don't know.
The monster.
I mean,
hunter.
he probably wanted to be a man so that he could bone her, but then he kills her, you know.
That's true. movie's so focused on sex, it's absurd.
I was gonna say it is a very horny movie.
Yeah.
Like I was like vividly remember when they first meet and she like falls like her private part right onto his face. I'm like, oh boy.
Oh, yes.
This is-
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I love Kate Beckinsale. Um but her acting in this movie was not great, and I want to give her the benefit of the doubt and say that it's not necessarily like her inability to act but rather the direction that she was given, because
Yeah.
I know she can act, um but it's just like so stilted, like stiff,
yeah.
in this movie, and her Transylvanian accent
Oh my
just
god,
like
yeah.
goes in and out.
I meant to say that when we first met her, that accent, I'm like, why even do it? Why didn't the director say, no, this is not that kind of movie. Just whatever you have, British is fine. I mean, it's so
Just
bad.
be British.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying though. Like that's why like Brendan, sorry to keep harping on this, but Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, they would have had great chemistry. You know, when
Yeah.
he falls on his face, you know, he would have made something funny comment. Where Hugh, he was just like, get this woman's private parts off me. I'm here to kill vampires. Like, no, what are you doing? I don't know.
I suspect they were hoping this would become its own franchise. They wanted to have 2 franchises going,
Right.
plus
Mhm.
crossover opportunities.
Mhm.
You get those crossovers.
But that's like a difference between movies that again know what they want. Like The Mummy knows it's like an action adventure movie with humor. And you got
Right.
two leads who have chemistry and know how to be funny, but also can
Mhm.
kind of be like badass. Like Brendan, they're both like awesome in that and do action sequences. Where this is just like you said, she's so stilted, and he's I don't know some version of Wolverine and Batman, and I don't know. He's got this buddy cop Igor, not Igor, Carl.
Carl.
It just goes back and forth. I don't know. And don't get me started on Dracula. I mean that
Oh,
guy's
dude, that guy. that guy's hamming it up. He's having fun.
Also, the Brides of Dracula, like if
they were cool.
you yes, but if you removed all the other like characters from the scene and you just like really focus on what they're doing, like it is very over the top dramatic acting. They're doing like all these poses and they have to hold the pose, and so it's just like really awkward if you're just looking at them. If you're not paying attention to like the other stuff that's happening.
Trust me, I was just looking at them.
Oh.
Talking to the right crew. I will say that was my favorite sequence of the whole movie. Is like when he first shows up and they like kind of bum rush the whole town.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a moment where I used to do this as a kid, not with a crossbow, but with like everything, where he put his foot underneath the crossbow and flicked it up into his
Uh-huh.
arms. And I
Yeah.
would do that. I played soccer. I would do that. If I saw trash, I would do it for no reason. Oh, let's catch it and then dunk it in the trash. But he did it with a crossbow and started firing. I was like, this is the coolest thing. I remember even
Yeah.
watching it in high school. I'm like, that's my man right there.
That's
he knows,
perfection.
yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the race to the holy water. That was fun.
Those action scenes, like the first one in the town or when he's fighting Dr. Jekyll, those are they're fun. They're moderately well done and a delight to
Yeah.
watch.
Even like the first like Wolfman one with Kate Beckinsale where they're trying to capture the Wolfman and her
Mhm.
In the
brother's
cage.
just terrible job on top of the cage.
Yes. Did you when you were watching it the first time? I guess Mr. Anderson, because this was your first time. Did you expect the whole carriage switcheroo thing? The two carriage situation?
Absolutely. I forget, it was just
Fine.
like what they were not showing. I was like, oh, there's going to be a second carriage. Okay.
Fast Five stole that.
Yeah.
Brazil. What'd you want to say, Jingles?
I was just this movie has I think here's my not so hot take. I think there's a good reason Stephen Sommers' career probably ended right around this movie. The guy after The Mummy kind of ended up being a one-trick pony, and it kind of shows through all of these. I haven't seen Odd Thomas, but and I'd actually be very curious because that's a Dean Koontz adaptation, so I don't think it would have this type of style. But Odd Thomas also, if I remember correctly, he sees the ghost of Elvis. So it's
Oh,
like, yeah, like I think Odd's thing is he can see ghosts and he uses them to help do investigations and things. And one of the ones that he hangs out with all the time is Elvis Presley. So
interesting. Okay.
I can kind of see how they probably went for this guy to adapt that. But
Do you know what the
Yeah.
last movie he directed was?
what?
G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra.
Oh,
So it's tough.
oh, that movie not so different from this as far as the
I was
action
just
goes.
saying, I didn't hate it.
Yes.
But he did his first one, or one of his earlier ones, in '98, called Deep Rising. Listen to this. I actually added this to my watch list. It's like, a group of heavily armed hijackers board a luxury ocean liner in the South Pacific to loot it, only to do battle with a series of large-sized, tentacled, man-eating sea creatures who have taken over the ship first. I mean, I'm in.
That sounds cool.
19,
Wow.
Sounds cool.
1998 Deep Rising. I'm firing that up. So he had his time.
Yeah, he had a knack for adventure for sure. And whether that had range to go for a long time, I don't know. I would say probably not.
All right. Does anybody else have any more notes for this masterpiece?
I think overall, just like, I mean, I mentioned the really long minute, but I think in general, time just didn't really make sense in this movie. There was really no like real attempt to keep to a realistic like sense of time.
So
Yeah.
did he have to kill Dracula by any certain point just before his little babies got unleashed? Is that like the
Yeah,
race
yeah,
against?
yeah. Because they needed Frankenstein's monster to power the contraption to give life to the
Right.
babies. So,
Mm. The goal was to stop that from happening.
what was that? Is there an answer?
He had to get his cure for being a
Yeah,
werewolf.
after he got
Yeah.
bitten. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much in there. There's the whole werewolf plot. There's the whole I forgot about the Frankenstein plot. I remember watching the movie trying to, and I thought he burned to a crisp in the first scene. I'm like, oh, he's back.
Mhm.
What's going?
What's
And then,
happening here? Yeah.
yeah, and then not the Dracula stuff, and I don't know. So I think, like you said, Jingles, they tried to put everything in this movie, and at a certain point, I like that to an extent, but as a movie working, it just at a certain point, it's just too much.
Yeah. I do kind of, this is by far a more hypothetical question, but the dark, I think they were calling it the Dark Universe, right? The one that was started with Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah,
in that
started
movie.
and ended.
It started and ended. Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, if their project plan had been just to take Van Helsing and break it up into a bunch of smaller things and try to bring it back together, would have been more Marvel-esque, right? But it might
Yeah.
have had some sort of success. If
Mm.
I never saw the other Mummy movie. I don't know if this was ever a viable option, but it just seems like you could have broken this up a little bit. And if you wanted your franchise, you could have ended your franchise with this huge mashup
Yeah,
once we got a little bit more started with Van Helsing.
I love the idea. I think it's like one of
Yeah.
the biggest IP that isn't like capitalized on the monster universe. In 2020, there was an Invisible Man remake with Elizabeth Moss,
Yeah.
and it's legit one of the best movies of that year. It's like kind of um, it's a theme about domestic abuse. They mix into
Yeah.
the monster thing, and it's just so good. And if they could just make good single movies like that, and then you could always bring it together. So, I don't know, bring Hugh Jackman back as Van Helsing, I guess. I don't know, but but yeah, I really think, like you said, this is a cool world that I love watching these types of monster movies. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm every time I see a monster movie from Universal coming out, I get super excited. Like the new Wolfman. I don't know if anyone's seen a trailer for that, but that
oh, yeah.
looks like it's gonna be great. Pacific Northwest, doing a lot more of the like cabin in the woods style, like something's wrong with dad. I think it'll be interesting.
This movie really was like a time and a place. Like 2004, they could never made like a prestige Wolfman movie. There was always going to be this B level cheese.
I
Like
mean, they didn't.
I know, yeah. Swinging a miss.
They tried 6 years later, right? And it still was. Oh, that movie! I just watched that movie again recently, and that was so boring. That was
Which
another
one?
one where I was the Wolfman with Benicio
Oh,
del
Benicio?
Toro, and
Yeah.
I like that movie. Saw it in theaters.
did you really?
Yeah.
You should go check it out again. Give it
Yeah.
a look.
Might need to revisit.
That's another one where the CG, if it was ever good, is not good anymore.
So next year we'll just do the entire Underworld franchise.
Oh, I'm so down.
That's-
I love those movies.
That's what I was thinking of when Mr. Anderson was talking about the look of this movie. I was like, there's another one that has the same look. Yeah, the Underworld movies. That has that same kind of like dark kind of. I was thinking Resident Evil, but that's not it. It was Underworld. Oh, man. The mid 2000s. Good Lord. All right.
What time?
I think we nailed it, guys. I think we're all going to dress up as various characters for Halloween from this movie. And
I imagine so. That can be the cover for this episode.
there you go. The listeners can decide who will be who. Fingers crossed for Carl. Anyway.
All of us should just be friars. We all want to be Carl.
We're just
Yeah.
all Carls.
Yeah, just all four Carls. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. Go check us out at the Legendarium Discord where you can hang out with us. Panda, is there like a place to go to get invited there? I always say it at the end of episodes, but I don't know where they should find it.
It is always linked in our show notes, the
Oh,
description of the episodes.
There you go. Check us out. Come join us. We talk about more than just Van Helsing and mid 2000s movies sometimes. But thank you to Craig and Horizon Brave. And the music is, darn, I didn't bring Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks. Nope, didn't do that right. Yes, I
that's
did.
right.
Okay, you're editing.
Yeah.
You can
Oh, look at me. I've come a long way. And yeah, for Panda Jingles and Mr. Anderson, I'm Yettibeats. And thanks for listening.
Bye.
next time.